Welcome to the School Leaders Podcast. My name is Dr. Georgetown Harrigan, the podcast for current and emerging school leaders, those who support and supervise them. You will hear from passionate educational leaders who are transforming their schools, communities, and creating positive outcomes for students. I will also share my personal reflections and tips from over 15 years as a school leader. Together, we will talk about how to level up our schools and leadership practices. Hello and welcome to the School Leaders Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Georgetown Harrigan. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to encourage all of our listeners to join the School Leaders Podcast community on Facebook. There, we continue and extend our conversation from the episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can be notified whenever a new episode is released. Today, I have a special guest, Fedrick Cohens. He's the Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction for all elementary schools at Georgetown County School District, where he supports all elementary school principals and leaders. He provides technical assistance to early childhood, to early learning centers, to supervising elementary schools, to creating optimal opportunities for effective teaching and learning experiences. He is a former elementary principal for nearly a decade. He's also a creative and effective leader with demonstrated skills in standard-based instruction, early childhood development, literacy education, technology instruction, and building and sustaining school community and school partnership. Join me in welcoming Fedrick to the School Leaders Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to get a chance to connect with you in person. I know we've been connected for a while online. Before we get started, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Fedrick Cohens, as was stated, and I'm from a small rural community in South Carolina, Georgetown County. It's actually where I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school. I finished high school in 1995 and went off to a big university in South Carolina and actually enjoyed it there. It was a different experience. Unfortunately, my father passed away in 1997, and I had to move back locally to continue my education. And that probably was a blessing in disguise. During that time, my brother was in fifth grade. One of my brothers was in fifth grade, and he was having a hard time dealing with my father's death. So I would go and sit in the classroom with him. And he, at that time, had a male teacher. And I had never experienced that before. And the environment was so engaging and inviting, words that we use now. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have used that back then. It was just a fun experience. So I stated to myself, I thought about it, and I had all the prerequisites for going into education when I was in high school with teacher cadet and pro team. But, no one ever tells a Black male, you can be a teacher. So at that moment, I decided that I would go into education. And basically, that's how I got started in education, from that experience in my brother's fifth grade classroom. Went on and finished at Coastal Carolina University, started teaching. I actually started teaching right after I graduated that Saturday, started teaching that Monday, and did a long term in kindergarten for the remainder of that year. And that was a very good experience. But my formal teaching experiences have been in second grade and third grade. Went on to become an assistant principal for 10 years. And now I'm at the district office. A lot of things happened in between that time, but I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version. A lot of things happened in that time during that time, but I ended up becoming a principal, staying there for 9 years, enjoying every minute of it. And the superintendent asked me if I wanted to do something different. And of course, I like a challenge, and I went to the district office working with early learning programs, parenting, and things of that nature. And now I'm actually in my current role supervising all the elementary schools and among a lot of other things as well in my county, and I'm enjoying it.
That is so awesome. And you said one thing is definitely, I only spent about a year and a half in elementary. And yes, we need more males, especially Black males also in elementary schools. And really having males at the elementary level make a significant impact on students. So as you reflect, and yes, you have over 2 decades of experience in education, both leading at the school-based site and district level. So,
right.
Share some of the lessons you've learned, not only as a principal, but also as a district leader in these 22 decades of experiences.
I think the most important thing that I've learned and I carry with me every day is that relationships are very, very important. Relationships not only with your coworkers, but relationships with people in the community, relationships with people, students, relationship with parents, relationship with business partners. Relationships are the catalyst that drive everything that we do in our setting. And if you don't have good relationships or have good relational skills, you're not going to go very far, because you have to be able to get along with a diverse group of people, and you have to be able to adjust quickly to whatever those diversities are.
That's key, because as a current principal, when I inherited my school, really was in a difficult spot. And you're right, it was all, people ask me, what did you do? I said, I just went about get to know people, build relationship with staff, with BTU. Relationship truly matters. And you are spot on that
Right.
As school leaders, it is important that we build relationship with all of our stakeholders. And oftentimes we take that for granted without realizing that really the currency for leaders is relationship building. If you don't have people, will go through walls, will follow you.
Right.
If you definitely build those level of relationship. So let me ask you this, coming out of the pandemic, and every principal, every leader were impacted, face challenges, some more than others. Some are still dealing with the remnant or the leftovers from the pandemic. And you just made a valid point about the relationship matters. Share with us, how some of the tips and strategies for leaders, particularly who may be in difficult, challenging schools and community. How do they leverage? What are some of the tips they can leverage to really turn things around?
Well, in building relationship, you have to be open-minded. You have to be willing to see things from different perspectives. You have to realize that people change daily. You have to remember that our parents, first and foremost, are not like parents that probably were parents of yesteryear. They're different, they're younger, or they are grandparents. So you have to be able to meet people where they are. And when I say meet them where they are, you have to approach each situation differently, because everyone is not the same. Their experiences are not the same. And what they are wanting is probably not going to be the same. Sometimes, we get fixated on putting everybody in a box, and we don't realize that that box is not going to be effective if we are using the same strategies and the same tactics with the same people, when those people, they deserve to be respected for who they are, but also they deserve to be treated for what they will actually want.
It's important you say that, because, and I know part of your job is really helping schools to develop partnership. If you could reflect back when you were sitting at the principalship level, how did you build relationship, especially with the community and business partners? What are some of the things you did to bring more businesses and more community partners to support students, especially at the elementary level?
We all talk about that open door policy, but you have to have an open school policy as well. You have to be willing to let people come in to see all of things that they're going in all the good things that are going on in your setting, so they can be invested in your setting. It's all right for you to tell them, it's all right for you to visit them at their places of employment, but bring them in and let them actually see what's going on. Let them visit classrooms, let them be a part of your meetings, let them sponsor things of that, or just get them involved, just not by just telling them, but by involving them. And I think that was part of the success at the school that I was at, not just because I was there, but the principal before me had set that precedence. The school was very well known for being a community and growth school. That means they were already invested in the programs at the school before I even got there. I just had to move it forward.
That is awesome. Something very important. You said the previous principal created a culture, and then you picked up and continued from it. And I think oftentimes new school leaders coming in think that they have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. And what I'm also hearing from you is you can continue the good work that was already established and just scale it up and make things better. And I think that's very important for new skills, new leaders that are listening, new principals, or even new assistant principal. Find out some of the positive things that were there, the positive culture, the positive procedures that were in place, and don't just eradicate them, eliminate them, build upon those things, because that's what allow that school that you have inherited to be successful. Obviously, you will do new things, but again, it's very important, as you indicated, Fedrick, to ensure that to identify, to work, and build upon your predecessor's success. I often tell leaders when I'm coaching them is do not bash the previous leader, right?
Mhm.
Learn from what was
Yeah.
happening, make adaptations, put systems in place, and move forward.
The principal that was there, she was there for 18 years. I heard her name probably daily while I was there. People still are talking about her because she was there. She was that kind of a leader. She had a big impact on that school's community, and she was just known for being a phenomenal leader. So people still are talking about her and the things that she did there. She did great things at the school that I was at. And I mean, you just can't take that away from someone. Of course, you want to put your stamp on that building. You want to make sure that you start things, but you cannot. That's one of the things that probably will get you away from that building quicker, is if you start taking away things that they are accustomed to.
And that's important, because oftentimes leaders, we think, well, you need to start talking about me. And I think as leaders, we need to be humble. We need to recognize the bridges that were laid before us and honor those histories, honor the leaders that came before, especially if they were phenomenal leaders, build upon their success, learn from them, as you just indicated, yes. and not turn it into a challenge. And as you said, the quicker to be removed from that building is to try to not value it. And so again, to all of our leaders listening, that's critical to value. And
I tell everyone, and I even tell my new principals now, everyone knows you're the principal. You don't have to tell them you're the principal. They know you're the principal. They know your role. They know your title. If you have to tell them, that means you're validating yourself, because they know who you are already. You don't have to keep reminding them that you are the principal.
And that's key. That is so true. Thank you for sharing that. In your current role as an executive director of curriculum instruction, really leading and coaching elementary principals, and really all my principals who are listening, you can learn something from elementary school. Having worked in elementary school and now I'm a secondary principal, there's a lot of things you can learn there. But if you could reflect and share some of your top literacy strategies for school leaders, for how school leaders could really, every leaders, whatever level, some of the literacy strategies for them to scale up teaching and learning in their building.
Well, and I could be biased, so this is just going to be my own personal feelings, but the most success that I've had in literacy comes from a philosophy that your school should encompass the 5 big ideas of reading. And once your school and you probably know that being in Florida from the Center of Research in Florida. So that is very big. That is key. But when you take that framework and you develop a balanced literacy concept, which we did at my school or our schools in Georgetown, develop a balanced literacy concept that encompasses guided reading, shared reading, writing, some type of phonics and word study, all of those good things that support the 5 big ideas of reading, that to me is key. That is crucial. Now, I don't like to get into strategies and things because one size does not fit all, but your data should drive whatever your strategies actually are. Strategies could be in a program, but they also could be in the most effective in personnel. If your staff is trained in all of these good techniques and all of these strategies, that's the most important thing, as opposed to the programs or things that people are always trying to sell leaders all the time. Because of course, their program is going to be the best, and it could be. But I believe a person, a human in front of a student or a child or a teenager or a high school senior, whatever level you are, that human factor is most important.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the conversations I was having with a school leader, in fact, today, was around that you can truly have great programs, but really at the end of the day, it's the people implementing those programs. It's really the support and what you just said, the PD, the professional development that you provide to your teachers, to your staff, to make sure they are scaling up and they are improving. So, talk to us about how does that PD look like in your district? How do you train leaders to train their teachers to deliver that balance?
We have embraced the PLT, concept. Some people call the PLC. We have embraced that process in my district. And I can only speak for elementary schools. In our district, PLCs are required at least once a week. There's a 4-week cycle. Our administrators are required to be in PLTs or PLC. Of course, some things come up and they can't be in them. But in those PLCs, that's where data is discussed, standards are unpacked, and instruction is planned. And that cycle continues. And then the fourth part of that is just looking at what intervention or supports are actually needed in the MTSS process to make sure that we are covering all of our students and not just leaving them behind, because we want to make sure that everyone is moving forward and not just stagnant in their academic growth. So that PLT process, having the principals involved, and some of our principals are instructional leaders. They lead the PLT process, but all of our schools also have an instructional coach that leads as well. And then we have teacher leaders too that are stepping up now. So we've really embraced that process, and we have that cycle going in our schools. So that's where the PD actually comes in. And also one thing that we've done in our district, which is harder for a lot of districts, but we've strategically made sure that professional development that is offered at one school is offered at all schools. It's not just at school A because school A is a Title I school and can afford this consultant or these types of things. Everybody gets the same thing.
And that's key. Using the PLT or the PLC, depending on your district, to build capacity is critical. And one of the things I heard you said is, using that data to drive everything else, and making sure that data-driven instruction, that using the data to plan the PD, to do that entire cycle is key. And oftentimes leaders, we do not effectively use all the data that are available to us to plan instructions, because the growth I've seen in my school, it's really through the data we collect, through formative assessments. We also, look at our walkthrough data, to ensure what we're observing and where teachers need feedback, and using that to drive and determine what we need to focus on around the PLC, and then turning around modifying our instructional focus calendars, depending what you call them in your district, or pacing guides, to make sure we are hitting those key skills and improving from there. And using the MTSS process is key to make sure every kid is getting that tiered support, tiered instruction that they need. One of the things I have found, and I don't know how that looks like in your district, that I found effective for my teachers around PD is tiered PD. And sometimes I said, people look at me, I says, well, not everybody's in the same place. Not everybody's in the same spot. And how do you, I know it works for me, but how does your team principals, or how do you coach your principals to really give tiered support or tiered PD to their teachers?
That is a goal of mine. So you're singing melodies to me right now, because that's where I would like to get. And unfortunately, we are not there yet. And I think it's because we are still in the frame of mind that we don't want to make anyone look differently from anyone else. But some people need more support than others. And we just have to, for our children's sake, we have to get there, because they deserve teachers to be at their best, giving their best. And sometimes we don't do that when we are giving everybody the same thing. Some people need acceleration, some people need remediation. And I think that is probably one of the things that I think that's an area of growth for us.
For all of our listeners, listen, wherever you are in that journey, it's just a matter of continuous improvement to ensure that teachers, the same way we talk about tiered support for kids, making sure that each staff members get the necessary support.
I know that takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of hard conversations, more than likely. But if we actually want to see growth, it's something that has to happen.
Absolutely. So as we shift gears a bit, we know if we we just finished talking about the PDs and PLC cycles that are or PLT cycles that are at our schools. If we really want to sustain that over time, we know that emerging leaders and assistant principals who wants to move into the principalship definitely, or district level positions, definitely need to scale up their skills. For all of our assistant principals or emerging leaders, team leaders, grade level team leaders that are listening, what are some of the tips or advice that you could share with them for ways they can grow in 2023 if they would like to move into the assistant principalship or the principalship or even a district position?
I would say two things: keep up and don't give up. Keep up with everything that is going on in your current setting or in your district or in your building so that you know what's going on instructionally, all facets of what's going on in that building, and put yourself out there as someone who wants to be a leader. You have to step out and be in front of and not scared to be in front of people. You have to keep up. It's not all about going to conferences and the reading of the professional books, but just making sure that you are immersed in a variety of things so you can be well-rounded and be able to speak the language of what is going on instructionally at your school. Know how the PLT cycle is actually supposed to work and lead it. Ask to facilitate it. Know, what programs or initiatives that are in your building or in your district, and ask to be a part of it or lead it or just sit in. Meet with your principal or your leaders or your supervisors and let them know that you want to grow professionally, and ask them, how can I be of assistance to you in your role so I can help groom my leadership role or my leadership characteristics. I think that's key, just putting yourself out there, keeping up with things. And then on top of that, don't give up, because, there may be positions that are available that are far and few in between, depending on where you're living. I know in my district, we don't have a lot of administrative vacancies, so you can't give up. Move to another area, or you can, you can relocate, but you can actually be a leader in the role that you're currently in. You could be a teacher leader. You could be a leader in your building. You could just be a leader and just wait on that time to come, because I'm a firm believer, what is for you is going to happen. And it may not happen when you want it to happen, but it'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
Listen, thank you for those two key advice. Keep up and don't give up. And I think sometimes we get leaders or emerging leaders get caught up in the politics. Nothing wrong with going to conferences and iron sharpen iron, but oftentimes they don't keep up with what's happening in their district, the trends that are happening, where the district is heading. And oftentimes I tell emerging leaders or those who are looking to move into a different position, are you aware of all the things that are happening? Can you speak to it? And,
yes.
And sometimes, emerging leaders, team leaders don't even realize some of the great work or pocket of excellence that exists in their own building.
Right.
And so it's very important. Key advice you just shared to all the emerging leaders and team leaders looking to grow. Listen, keep up with what's going on. You don't have to lead every initiative, but you should be leading some of those initiatives. Right. And if you are not, reach out to your principal or your director and ask them, hey, how can I how can I assist you in leading this work? What I know about all principals is they're always looking to grow leaders. They're always looking for people to assist in the various initiatives that they have. So awesome. Keep up and never give up, like you just said. So I'm in a large district, second largest in the state, and the sixth largest in the county. In the nation. Even then, some people often come to me and says, well, why I can't get that job? And I say, how are you growing? Can you speak to the initiatives that are happening in the district and at your school? So it's very important that, as you indicated, keep up and don't give up. That is very important to all of our emerging leaders.
Yes.
So I truly appreciate your time today, sharing a lot of nuggets for school leaders and for emerging leaders, for ways they can continue to grow, expand their skills, and definitely around literacy education, making sure that they are always putting systems and PDs and PLTs in place to really improve their teachers' skill set and effectiveness. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure you agree, the number one factor on student learning is teacher effectiveness.
It's the teacher, yes.
Is that, and the second is obviously the leader and building other leaders around the building. So as we wrap up this interview, if you would share your favorite book or quote and why.
Well, and many of people that may follow me know that I have a strong background, and I love the Bible, and I love studying the Bible and teaching when I can. I am my church school superintendent, and I usually teach a couple of Sundays out of the month. But my favorite book would be the Bible, but my favorite quote would be coming from Isaiah 40:31. And that's, but they that wait upon the Lord. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because it's more than that. But that piece right there is just my favorite, because everything I do, I want to be making sure that it's pleasing, not only to me, but pleasing for others as well. And I know sometimes those things just won't come instantaneously, but I have to learn, or I had to learn to wait. And in waiting, I know that the process of waiting for many is gruesome, but the process of waiting for me is growing. And in that wait period, I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm living. So I just like Isaiah 40:31 because I'm waiting. And I know that, whatever I'm waiting on or whatever I'm praying for or asking for, it's not going to happen probably when I want it to happen, but it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen.
Thank you for sharing that scripture verse. At the end of the day, as you were speaking, I wrote down grow in your waiting, because sometimes we get frustrated when we're waiting. But I think what you just said is key in 2023. If we are going to be the leaders, whether it is a team leader, whether it is a principal or emerging leader, if we're going to continue to grow as a leader, whichever capacity, we got to keep on growing in our waiting. While we wait, right. We are growing, we are sharpening our skills.
Right.
We are becoming better people. We are becoming better leaders. If you're in the classroom, making sure kids are learning, you are growing in your pedagogy, and that's key, because oftentimes when we're in different seasons, we get caught up with seeing other people being promoted, other things are happening for other people, and not realizing it's your waiting season, and you should just continue to grow, continue to expand, continue to sharpen your saw. All right, your carpet continue to grow, and that's key. So thank you for sharing that. Again, thank you for coming on the podcast. Tell everyone. I
appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, tell everyone who's listening, how can they connect with you?
Well, on LinkedIn, I am Fedrick Cohens, Fedrick Cohens. I'm also on Instagram, FEDCOH. My first three letters of my first name, of my last name. And I'm also on Facebook as well as Fedrick Cohens as well. So you can find me, follow me those way. I do have Twitter, Mr. Cohens. I rarely use that. I'm getting a little bit better with that. But you can find me, on any of those social media platforms.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for joining me today. Please consider subscribing to the podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and a comment. Share this episode with a friend and on social media. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for leadership ideas and tips. Again, thank you for joining me today. Until next time.